Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Johnson. Let me read from you Jeremiah 7th chapter, 23rd verse. But this thing commanded I them, saying, Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people. And walk ye in all the ways that I have commanded you, that it may be well with you. Can't be much more specific than that. God has set down some conditions and also a promise with it that you and I can't afford to ignore. He asks us to obey the commandments. Now, it is not above us to have to go somewhere in order to obey the commandments. Sitting where you are, you can succeed in putting yourself to a point where you can follow what God has asked you to do. And it is not impossible. If it were impossible, God would be unjust in putting the sin against you. But you and I can avoid sin. You and I can give our lives to God, and God asks for obedience. That's why, in God's sight, obedience is better than sacrifice. He doesn't want you to just surrender. He wants you to yield to obedience, to do what He wants you to do. For example, 10 Commandments are not so hard to follow. Honor your father and mother. Do not lust after somebody else's wife. Do not steal their stuff. It's understood that you're supposed to love your neighbor as yourself. We're talking about the character of God, and God is asking you to be His character by following His rules. And He says, this thing I commanded. Obey my voice, and I will be your God. Had trouble lately talking to God or communicating with Him? That might be the reason. You're not taking time to obey Him. You know the 10 Commandments. Look them up in Exodus 20 and read them again. Read every one of the commandments and ask yourself, can I do them? Now, naturally speaking, some of those commandments are there for you to obey. Honoring your father and mother is not that hard. In fact, it comes naturally. We fight against it because of our evil nature. We don't want to obey mom and dad. We don't want to obey anybody because of our obstinance. But God says honor, not just obey, but to honor your father and mother. The understanding is that you and I can honor our parents. And it isn't that hard. Loving them, caring about them, and doing what you can to help them is, by its own right, very important. By the same token, learning to obey God and obey His voice, God says, I will be your God if you will obey.